Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Radnor Township School District October 10th Facilities Committee meeting. First item on our agenda are introductions and administrative remarks.
Thank you. Two things to start. Michelle will not be in attendance tonight, and Meredith, our student rep, will be running a little late because I believe she has a field hockey game. Just a follow-up from some questions from last month. One of the questions was, is the district monitoring the vehicles at Radnor Elementary School? We did monitor up through 2006, I found out after digging, but that was the last time we monitored those cars going by, and then some paving work was done, and that actually ruined our system that was under the ground in order to monitor those. The next thing that I can relate to and respond to was the portable classrooms at the top of Ithan Elementary School. What are they being used for? One is being used for storage. There's various meetings that happen up there, and some teachers are up there, and some services are also happening. So it is being used, and some of our organizations also have some space up there. So other than that, that is all the administrative remarks that I have this evening.
Thank you. That brings us to, well, don't we need to approve? Oh, thank you. That brings us to public comment. Is there any public comment at this time? You need to hit the green button. There you go. And now you're on.
Hello, I'm Connie Congleton, 408 Midland Avenue, and I'm here tonight because I feel very strongly that improvements need to be made to the athletic fields at the high school, including Inky Field, and it's not limited just to the bleachers. There are other things that could be done, so I look forward to hearing the discussion. I know that's on the agenda for this evening. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
That working now? No.
You're on. Don't
Thank
touch
you.
anything.
Roberta Winters, 326 Williams Road in Rosemont, and I just want to make an announcement in case people only watch this section of the board committee meetings tonight, and that is our commissioners' forums will be held next Monday night, the 16th, at the Township Building for people who care to attend those, and our candidates' forum for the school committee meetings will be held the 26th of October, and they'll both be held at the Township Building at 7 o'clock at night, and I hope that everyone will continue to become involved civically and consider voting November 7th and being informed about the candidates and their choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. I know some of us will be there as well.
I'll be in the back throwing stuff.
Then we'll all be there.
Good afternoon, Judy Sherry, Governor's Circle. To begin with, it's a very big challenge to find information about today's meetings unless you know to go to board docs. When you click on it on the front page on the calendar, it just leads you to a page that says something like meetings are tentatively scheduled. So that needs to be addressed, especially as it's a new program using board docs. Most people wouldn't know that that's, unless they attend a lot of these meetings, to look for that. I still have previous questions that have not been answered. What is the administrative timeline for enabling facility rentals to occur electronically with an online application process? When do we plan to implement that? And, can we just, I learned that we're not monitoring vehicles as required by the agreement. Can we just arbitrarily not do things in the agreement? I don't know how that works. Did we get approval of the other parties when we stopped monitoring? Number 3, these are questions I asked. Why should former employees get a discount on field classroom rentals? And number 4, am I correct in understanding from, I guess, the last meeting that there is no requirement that if a field or classroom is rented by a Radnor resident at a discount, that a percentage of the participants using the field or classroom must be Radnor residents? This used to be a requirement, so I just wondered why there is a change in that. Because I remember with mainline school night, they had to have a certain percentage of their students from Radnor before they could get the discounted rent. And I'm back to asking about the tri-party agreement. Did the board agree with the summary of Mr. Christofko's review that the school district is 50% responsible and the township is 50% responsible for repairs of the bridge, and the township owns the bridge? I'd like to know if the board is in agreement with that assessment. And I had asked before if a board member would be willing to release that legal review. Taxpayers paid for it, and I don't understand the reason to keep it a secret. Number 5, what are the educational plans for the 2 Robert Rhodes properties? The school board's job is education, not real estate investment or open space protection. So what are the educational plans for those buildings was my question. Number 6, what are the proposed stormwater plans for the North Wayne Field, and does the school board endorse them? The township has proposed some plans. I haven't heard the school district weigh in, and they own the property. So they are all my past comments. My new comments, other than expensive bleachers for football games, does the board have any other major facility expenses on the horizon? So just in terms of planning ahead, what's the expectation in terms of putting money into buildings or fields? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Cindy Spurtle, 106 Valley Forge Terrace, Wayne. Thank you for answering some of the questions, Todd. But the question one of them that is still not answered was after our visit to Ithan, was the rent paid by DCIU for the annex. Was one of the questions I had asked. And also on the stormwater management meeting, my question is, will there be a representative from the district assigned to or asked to attend stormwater management meetings? Since, as Ms. Sherry had just indicated, there was a big meeting and decisions are being made, is the school district, as owner of the North Wayne Field, involved in any of those? And also on the Radnor Elementary School bridge going over Matson Ford, what is the update on any repairs, if any, have been done? The other day I was over there, maybe a couple weeks ago, and there was work being done on the bridge. And also then, my last question is on the facilities usage. I had made a recommendation and just curious as to whether there was a request made by the administration or the committee to have the Citizens Advisory Committee assist with a study of the fees versus the costs for facilities usage. My understanding is that in some cases, the cost of the facilities being used exceeds the fees being paid for that event. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none. On the agenda is the approval of the September Facilities Committee minutes. Oh, the approval of the Facilities Committee for September, the approval of the committee minutes.
Looks good.
Okay, thank you. They stand as written. Next item on the agenda is the Radnor High School bleachers.
And right before we go to that, I did forget to answer a question from previously. Are the banners a Prevost commercial? They are not commercial. They are the Radnor banners. So as far as the bleachers, What we'd like to do is get your permission to move forward and putting this on the agenda for the board, and that would be to work with a bleacher manufacturer to develop the rough designs and cost estimates. We're in the process of putting together an RFP for the architectural services to look at various design options, and what we would be asking this committee is to allow Mr. Bechtel to start meeting with some groups just to get ideas, no commitments from any groups or the district as far as what this process may be besides bleachers. It could be other things that Mr. Bechtel spoke about previously. So what we like to do is just kind of get your permission to move forward, put this on the agenda for an RFP at some point, and allow Mr. Bechtel to start meeting with some groups that may have interest in basically remodeling that area, not just the bleachers.
Yes, from me.
Well, so what would the RFP look like?
Michelle would know more about exactly what it would look like, but from what she's telling me, she would be putting in there for architectural services to look at various design options.
All right, so this is not going to be to construct anything. This is...
Correct. This is just
Okay.
kind of to get ideas of what we could potentially do with the area, both bleachers and off the field. And again, have Mr. Bechtel meet with some groups that may be interested
Right.
and just kind of get ideas from them. But again, there are no commitments on the district's part or the group's part for ideas that he may get from them.
No expenditure at this point. We're simply asking for
No
bids.
expenditure other than to get the RFP on. There would be an expenditure for the architect where we're going to need it anyway, but the RFP would get the person out here to allow them to start looking at the property and start designing. Would meet with Mr. Bechtel as well.
Well,
to get
wouldn't
some
the
ideas from him.
RFP be, we would simply advertise to collect bids for the architect who would come in
Correct.
and perform that work?
Correct.
So all we're authorizing now would be to go out and seek the RFP.
Correct. We would want you to allow us to put the RFP on the board agenda, and then also for you to have knowledge that Mr. Bechtel would be meeting with groups as well for ideas.
Right.
But
so there's no-
financially, it's just the RFP on the agenda for the architectural.
Sure. So until we award the bid, there's no expenditure.
Correct.
Yeah, I have no problem with it.
Wait, so meeting with the architect doesn't incur any costs, is what you're saying?
Well, the RFP would then allow us to meet with an architect. We would go out for bids, have the architect, after the RFP would be awarded, the architect would come in, meet with Michelle, myself, and Mr. Bechtel, and we would just start discussing some things with him.
And ultimately, that RFP, it would come to the Finance Committee before it was awarded.
I believe she would take it to the Finance Committee. Correct. It's just because we've been
Right.
talking about bleachers here with facilities, she asked me to bring it up this evening.
No, I think it should come here.
Well, it'll go both.
And I think that we should have maybe I don't understand what you're saying, but I think there should be a dollar amount on how much costs we can incur from discussing with architects.
So that's what I'm saying. There's no
Yeah.
expenditure. We're simply allowing them to
You're
send out
saying,
to collect RFP, right? Put the RFP out, collect bids. At that point, I think the bids should be sent back to the Finance Committee and to us to evaluate before anything's awarded. But I think that's the normal course of
Correct.
business.
Okay.
So at this point, we're just allowing the bids to be collected.
So any discussion with architects is
Correct.
gratis?
Yeah, that's it.
In preparation
It would have
for
to
it.
come in front of the full board to get the RFP permission, and then we would look at those bids, award them, and then we would come back, and just kind of give you an update where we are with the architect. It's just it's the very beginning stages that we wanted to let you know, so there are no surprises on board agendas.
All right, good.
All right? Okay. And as far as number 2 with the wrestling mat lifts, we talked about it before. Mr. Bechtel was actually here last month, and we just want to inform you that we'll be putting a transfer on the board agenda to move the funds for the mats from the high school to the mats at the middle school. So that's pretty simplistic. And number 3, the administration boilers, just want to let you know as the facilities committee that we will probably get another year, maybe 2 years out of our current boilers for this building. So we're going to be going out there and looking at purchasing some boilers that'll be more efficient and up to date. And we believe that our maintenance gentlemen will be able to put those boilers in, install them for us.
Okay, so those are this
Well,
building?
This building, the boilers that will
Exclusively?
create the heat for this building.
Okay.
They are, I believe, our maintenance guy said about 30 years old, so we want to get them updated. We're worried that if we wait too much longer, they may end up dying in the middle of the winter. And then we'd have to get somebody else to come in and put them in quickly, where our guys may take a week longer, but it's going to save us a lot of money in order to do
They
that.
don't break in June.
Correct.
They break the first.
They typically only break when
first
you're
one's
using
fresh.
them.
They break the
Right.
first time you turn it on, then they break.
Here comes Meredith.
Hi. Hello. Good. We won actually 6-0.
Yay, congratulations.
I'm so sorry that I'm late.
That's okay.
It's okay. We
Glad you're
appreciate
here.
you coming.
Just happy you're here.
So those are kind of the topics that we had to discuss.
So I have a question, which this is coming from, last year sometime. Do we have any update on the trail easement that we put a lot of discussion into?
I have not heard anything from our solicitor to this point, but I can reach out and ask Mr. Christofko.
Yeah, because I thought that they were under a timeline to do something by August.
Yeah,
It's going to be a year.
They needed permission from us to just,
Design it.
yeah, design it. That was their deadline, to get the money to do the design. And all that.
Okay.
And then they're not gonna come back to us until, I think, next year.
That's right. Yep. And at that point, they'll
So
have
they gotta
some
design
type of
it.
a design.
Part of the design is they
Okay.
gotta actually have to step foot on the property and realize, half of it's a swamp.
Yeah.
They gotta pave over so we can go into nature.
Okay, so we met our
We're in a holding
commitment to
pattern.
them.
Yeah,
They're
ball's in their
doing what
court.
they need to do. They're not waiting on anything from us. Okay. Good.
And my last thing would be to put you on the spot, Meredith, and let us know how the unveiling of the courtyard up at the high school and how students are using it. And if you just want to hit that little button there and let us know.
Okay. So the courtyard was unveiled, like 2 weeks ago, I think. And everyone loves it. Like, the picnic tables last year were such a big problem because they were kind of like falling apart. But now they're all so new and nice, and everyone really appreciates the renovations that were given to it. So, I mean, the weather hasn't been that nice lately, so not a lot of people have been able to sit outside. But I know, like, in my, what class was it? In my English class, we actually got to go outside. So, and use the outdoor classroom. So that was really cool. So, yeah, it's been really well. Yeah.
Thank you. I have nothing further based on the agenda.
All right. Committee, public comment. Is there any public comment at this time?
Meredith, I'm going to hit your button.
You can stay on.
Go ahead.
Just one quick question, and Todd, if you mentioned the cost of the mats and the lift, I didn't hear it, so
It was in
that is my
our,
question. Is it what was proposed, the 38,000?
it was in the business agenda for September, so you can look it up.
I can ask him, too.
Well, I don't know if he knows that off the top of his head.
That 38,000, okay, 38,000 was proposed. We don't know if it's still 38,000 then. How about one of the questions I was asked earlier, future capital projects? Anything on the agenda? Since we have so much time, could that be discussed? Thank you.
She was here. Is the meeting done? Oh, you can spit you.
Yeah, come and talk. If you have comments about,
Anything.
oh, you don't want to go on the record with these comments? Or,
Yeah, come on.
Now's the time. Anything.
anything?
Anything
So-
facilities related.
But just hit that green button. Anything facilities related, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's facilities. I mean, you start talking to us about curriculum, we're gonna think that's the
No.
Yeah.
Connie Congleton, 408 Midland Avenue. And following up to the very short bleacher discussion, again, I truly hope that the conversation will be expanded to include more than just the bleachers. And I have a couple of notes just that I jotted down in thinking and that have been kicked around with parents talking on the sidelines and in the bleachers, booster clubs, and just the various connections that I have. Bless you. First and foremost, and I speak only for Enki because that's where I've spent the past 4-5 years cheering for soccer. The safety concern, I don't know what code is, but the bleachers, if you're there and you try to step down on those bleachers, it's about a 16 to 18 inch step. The top part slants, and has crabgrass popping up underneath the AstroTurf. At the varsity soccer team's last home game, a gentleman in a wheelchair came up, and literally the people pushing him were so afraid and putting the brakes and putting things in front because it slanted, and he literally would have, gone rolling off. The bleachers and Prevost, I understand, need to be ADA compliant, but I can't imagine that Inky meets any ADA requirements at this point. Again, back to the seating. Most sporting events have home and visitor sides or sections, but not Inky. It's been uncomfortable and sometimes contentious when visitors find themselves sitting in the middle of the home crowd or vice versa, depending on who gets there, which school representatives, families get there first. You may find all of a sudden that you're sitting next to someone cheering for the other team. It's usually not a problem, but it can be uncomfortable. If anybody's been to our soccer games lately and going into double overtime, they get a little heated. The other option, if you don't sit on these concrete steps, are the metal bleachers that are at such a precarious angle, and with grass and tufts of grass growing on them. If it's raining, you have to walk through some mud and these inclines to get to these metal bleachers. Another issue would be to have improved access and gates. Right now, to get onto Inky, there is one gate that one side opens freely, the other side you have to move it depending on if you're coming around the rail. The other side is so far removed from the parking lot that it doesn't get used. Or you have to come down the stairs from Prevost and then walk through mud to get from approximately where the concession stand is to the gates to get into Inky Fields. Having an improved sidewalk or just a full sidewalk to connect the two fields would make the flow much easier. Expanding the concession stand to be more universal for both fields would be a huge improvement. And that leads to my next point is restrooms. Visitors, both home and away, our guests, are forced to use a porta potty. Or they go through the pool entrance of our school and they wander the halls looking for restrooms, often going into the poolside locker rooms instead of the public restroom, because you see the poolside locker room first, and most people assume that's where a restroom is. So they're walking around our facilities. In, again, 5 years of soccer and going to all the visiting schools, away locations, I can't recall, and other families that I've talked with about this cannot recall any other schools we've played at that did not have easily accessible centralized facilities for the public. And a suggestion was made to extend the concession building to include restrooms. An improved public address system. Personally, we just had our senior night last week, and right now it's a microphone. Well, Mr. Friel actually brought out a portable microphone that's not really made to address outdoors. Parents and families could barely hear the boys the senior boys that were introduced and recognized on senior night. If wiring or whatever, having a speaker on the light pole or somewhere on the visitor side, maybe having games announced, senior nights, all the sports that play on Inky do senior nights would be great. And I know I'm on under time. I just remembered that. Sorry. I know all the teams would desire improvements. Who wouldn't? Depending on how the proposals go, I want to make everybody aware. I mean, you've got a huge willing and able body of parents and that would be willing to volunteer to raise money. We've already kicked around a lot of ideas based on, like, for example, what Conestoga did. They tapped into their alumni base for all these sports. We have both girls and boys sports that are played on that field, and you have a huge alumni base that are willing to, you can sell bricks, you sell benches, you sell banners, you sell trees, anything like that to raise money that could supplement the funds that would be allocated for the improvement. I would say in response to concerns that are raised that the improvements are expensive or unnecessary, I would say that sports matter. Maybe not as much as our academics, and we are proud of our academics at Radnor, but sports matter. There's an intrinsic value in sports, the team aspect of it, character building, and whatever. So our athletic fields are the first thing you see when you round and enter our property from Radnor Chester Road. And I think the improvements would be worth it, that we round the corner and you see a facility that you're really proud of. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Yeah. Susan Stern, just one quick comment because it's facilities. If we could perhaps bring to the township's attention the possibility of claiming the 3 or 4 parking spaces in front of this building, I think that the number of meetings we hold here, it would be super helpful to have those be school district parking spots permitted, or however, just like they are on Luella Avenue, on the back where the teachers have some permitted spots on Luella, across from the entrance to the middle school. If we could have the spots in the front here be permitted for the administration building's use. Right now, if you want to use those spots, you have to park, walk across the street to the kiosk in the South Wayne lot, and then come back. Which, it's not about the walking, it's more that frequently people are here longer and end up getting ticketed. So just like we have permit spots on Luella, if we could have a conversation with the township about those 3 or 4 spots right in front of the administration building for our use. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. Can we put that as an action item for, I guess, it'll be you since Michelle's not listening to this?
Roberta Winters, 326 Williams Road, and I appreciate the passion that people come to the facilities meeting with sports and athletics in mind, and I think it is an important asset for our district. I would also impress upon the Facilities Committee that you perhaps may look at other kinds of activities within the school district that also require your attention, be they in terms of orchestra and band programs, be they in terms of the stage and audio facilities, be they in terms of things like the high school television studio that I know has made requests in the past. And I think it's important as we look across the district that you get a perspective of all the kinds of activities that are special for all of our students, because if we look at our mission statement, it is for each student and probably not for any special group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judy Sherry. Sounds like we have some issues about safety with the bleachers still, so I think they should definitely be prioritized. But I also heard Ms. Stern talk about parking in front of the administration building. I'm also wondering what the policy is, because I really don't know, about parking in numbered spaces after the school day is over, so that to come to a meeting tonight, I'm parked in a numbered space. It hasn't seemed to be a problem, but I don't really know if that's acceptable behavior. So I'd like to have that.
He's calling the truck.
Yeah. I believe that. And the fact that Dr. Winters mentioned the television station, I'm wondering what's with that now. I've had a blank screen, just black, at least on my Verizon station, for weeks now, and nothing is coming on. I don't know if that's true of Comcast. I don't know if we're
Is that
just
for the
having...
township meetings as well?
No.
Just
Township
for-
meetings, just
okay.
for the education channel. So,
Yeah, I have it too.
do you have a blank screen as well? So, yes, so I wondered what was happening regarding that and if that can be repaired. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any other public comment?
Going once, going twice.
Seeing none, We will adjourn for October, and our next meeting will be the first Tuesday in November.